In early March 2004, a massive storm began forming over the warm waters of the Indian Ocean. What started as a tropical disturbance quickly gained strength, fueled by the warm sea surface temperatures. Within days, it had transformed into one of the most powerful storms ever recorded in the region, Cyclone Gafilo. On March 6, Gafilo intensified into a Category 5 cyclone, the highest classification for tropical storms, with wind speeds reaching a staggering 260 km/h, 160 med. It became the strongest cyclone to ever hit Madagascar. What lay ahead was a disaster that would leave an entire nation in ruins.
In the early hours of March 7, 2004, Cyclone Gafilo made landfall near Antalaha, a coastal city in northeastern Madagascar. The full force of the storm slammed into the island, bringing with it winds powerful enough to tear apart buildings, uproot trees, and flatten entire villages. The destruction was immediate and overwhelming. As Gafilo moved inland, torrential rains caused rivers to overflow, triggering catastrophic flooding and deadly landslides. Homes, schools, and hospitals were swept away, leaving thousands stranded or buried beneath the debris. Roads and bridges collapsed, cutting off entire regions from aid and communication. The capital, Antananarivo, was also affected, with widespread flooding submerging streets and neighborhoods. The cyclone's impact stretched far beyond the initial landfall, leaving nearly the entire island reeling from its effects.
As if one strike wasn't enough, Gafilo re-emerged after passing over Madagascar and moved back into the Mozambique Channel. The storm weakened slightly before curving back toward Madagascar, making a second landfall on March 9. This time as a weaker but still destructive system. Though the winds had diminished, heavy rains continued to pound the already devastated island, worsening flooding and further delaying rescue operations. By the time Gafilo dissipated, Madagascar was left in ruins. The official death toll stood at over 300, but with thousands missing and entire villages washed away, the true number was likely much higher. More than 200,000 people were left homeless, and an estimated 1 million were affected by the disaster.
Beyond the destruction on land, one of the most heartbreaking tragedies of Cyclone Gafilo occurred at sea. The ferry Lee Samson, carrying more than 100 passengers, was caught in the storm off the coast of Madagascar. The violent waves and extreme winds capsized the vessel, and nearly everyone on board perished. Rescue efforts were severely hampered by the ongoing cyclone, and only a handful of survivors were ever found.
In the aftermath of Gafilo, Madagascar faced a humanitarian catastrophe. Food supplies were wiped out, clean water was scarce, and thousands of people were left without shelter. The country's already fragile economy took a devastating hit, with major losses in agriculture, infrastructure, and public services. The international community responded swiftly, with aid organizations and governments sending emergency supplies, food, and medical assistance. The United Nations, Red Cross, and various NGOs worked to provide relief. But the scale of the disaster made recovery efforts extremely difficult. Disease outbreaks, including cholera and malaria, posed additional threats to the already vulnerable population. Rebuilding took years. Roads, bridges, and homes had to be reconstructed, while farmers struggled to recover lost crops. The disaster highlighted the urgent need for better disaster preparedness and early warning systems in Madagascar and other cyclone-prone nations.
Cyclone Gafilo remains the most powerful and destructive storm in Madagascar's recorded history. Its impact reshaped the country's approach to disaster management, prompting improvements in cyclone preparedness and response efforts. The tragedy served as a stark reminder of the growing threat posed by extreme weather events, particularly in vulnerable island nations. With climate change increasing the intensity of tropical cyclones, Gafilo stands as a cautionary tale of nature's raw power and the urgent need for resilience and adaptation strategies.
Cyclone Gafilo was not just a storm. It was a catastrophe that tested the limits of human endurance and resilience. It left behind devastation, grief, and loss, but also a determination to rebuild and prepare for the future. Today, the lessons learned from Gafilo continue to influence disaster response efforts, ensuring that when the next great storm arrives, Madagascar and its people will be ready.